extraordinary. I remember certain races where you would know it was happening in the race because of the crowd's reactions. They'd be waving Ferrari flags or whatever. People would be standing up whenever something happened. It's really incredible.
Every year, the Grand Prix draws around 150,000 spectators. The less wealthy cling to the hillsides. The privileged pay up to €3,000 for a seat in the stands. Balconies overlooking the track are rented out for €20,000 or more. They are like opera boxes for welcoming guests, places to see and be seen, with one eye on the track and the other on the TV set for a panoramic vision of the race. The sleeping beauty of Monaco wakens one day a year to become the world's greatest theatre, its vastest stage and most prestigious arena, where 2 hours of real-life competition provide an unforgettable spectacle.
Preceded by his assistant, Jack Taff, Mr. Anthony Nogues arrives at his office. He is the president of the Monaco Automobile Club and the cornerstone and organizer of the Grand Prix. He has to see, anticipate, foresee, and control everything. It's been his job to complete this mammoth task in less than 50 days, and he has hardly slept a wink during 50 long nights. He has had to deal with the press, the radio, and film crews, register the drivers, work with the police force on security questions, organize special trains and buses with the railway and road transport companies, inform the medical services and crowd safety personnel, install the PA system, the timing apparatus, build the grandstands and pits, repair the track, and liaise with the press, radio, and cinema. The budget is in the area of 35 million euros. Approximately, the total budget. And obviously a substantial part of the budget comes from a state subsidy of between 6 and 7 million euros, which completes other revenues from ticket sales and advertising around the circuit.
Advertising works on visibility, and nowhere is as visible as Monaco. The world's premier showcase for a week or for 2 hours, Monaco is transformed into a giant publicity billboard for automobiles and performance, or the tobacco, drinks and cosmetics companies rich enough to associate their names with the glorious reputations of the drivers and their teams. The great post-war teams thrived on ingenious craftsmanship and creative invention. Gordini, Ferrari, Chapman, Tyrrell, Williams and McLaren. Then vital money arrived and success bred further riches. Monaco is notorious for contract negotiations, for mysterious million-dollar deals between teams, drivers and their sponsors. Racing is still a passion, but the economic stakes are ever higher and increasingly important. Television first came here with innocent eyes, as it did to any other Sunday afternoon stadium. Today, the images are worth a gold mine, gold that the networks hand over to the FOA, the race team's organization, in order to broadcast the show to hundreds of millions of viewers around the world. Between the deals, the glitter and the glamour, the VIPs and the hangers-on visit pits and palaces, casinos and grandstands, or splendid yachts rented to stay at anchor.
From our point of view, we probably get less money here for coming here than any circuit in the world. But that's not what the important thing is. It just is the fact that it's good, it gets good coverage worldwide for television and always has done. And it's a super place for sponsors to bring guests and use it from a platform from that point of view. Nothing bad about Monaco, except the hotel prices.
That year, Tyrrell invented their double front wheels, an experiment doomed to failure.
Bien, nous allons partir ensemble pour faire un tour Monaco. Nous partons descendre. Premier, deuxième, troisième. Toutes les trois, on va pas aller trop vite. La chicane de Sandevos qui est dégosie normalement en seconde. Plus vite la montée de Sandevos. C'est une chicane très rapide qui passe à fond. On est parti à peu près à 220 à l'heure. Pour un freinage léger et à gauche. Le gauche de l'hôtel de Paris qui se négocie au troisième. Et le droit du casino. Le circuit est très difficile parce qu'il demande beaucoup de changements de vitesse. Il n'y a pas de ligne droite pour se reposer, il n'y a aucun temps de répit. Le gauche le plus lent du circuit, avec le virage de la Rascasse, nous sommes ici au virage de l'ancienne gare. Virage du portier en seconde. Le bord de mer et le fameux tunnel. La chicane. Virage du bureau de tabac, toujours en troisième. L'arrivée à la piscine, c'est un boyau serré, on ne voit pas la sortie. Droite-gauche de la piscine. La rascasse. La chicane.
One of the things we didn't like about Monte Carlo was the artificial aspect of it. So many little turns and so many short little straights. We used to say that if it were anywhere but Monte Carlo, we wouldn't race here because it's such a silly, little, busy circuit.
I think that even for those who don't like it, as race drivers I mean, it still affects them. After all, racing in Monaco is a pretty incredible experience, and I think will always be among a driver's best memories.
The Monaco circuit is certainly one of the most difficult Formula One circuits. It's difficult because the track is very bumpy and there's a lot of dust. The rails are very close. You have to drive on really narrow track. So there's only room for a minimum of errors. But that's what makes it so interesting.
The drivers find in gesture a representation of each maneuver and turn, their hands indicating their trajectories, replacing words and mechanical explanations. It's the ritual encoded language of a specialized profession. Team managers, engineers and drivers exchange information and analyses.
It's going almost through a one single line there all the time. You are concentrate on driving, on being at the right spot, not able to relax for a moment. So it takes a lot of mental concentration, physical fitness. It's, in all aspects, is a tremendous challenge.
One year I finished fifth when Jean-Pierre Beltoise won because I had a duodenal ulcer that was hemorrhaging and my blood count was very low and I was making mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes and I was lucky to finish fifth, but it was because my mind wasn't working correctly. And I was fatigued, and because of the loss of blood through internal bleeding, I wasn't able to get the job done. So I think it's a circuit where you've got to have a brain that works from the beginning of the race until the end.
It's one of the places where the car can make a difference, but certainly much less so than at more traditional circuits. So the fact that the driver can have somewhat more influence than the car at a circuit like this is obviously quite important.
More than anywhere else, talent and skill are clearly visible in Monaco. On this extraordinary circuit, the spectators are almost eye to eye with the drivers and able to judge their reflexes, precision and consistency, the qualities of truly great drivers. Some of the quicker drivers on other tracks can make mistakes here. Others, unknown or even novices, can shine. In 1984, for his first Monaco Grand Prix, Ayrton Senna finished second in a second-string car. A minor error which might cost a tenth of a second somewhere else can eliminate you here. The Monaco track forbids frivolity, sanctions the disrespectful, and punishes the pretentious.
I got to know Jim Clark and was able to understudy Jim Clark. Was able to see how he drove because he was so smooth and so precise and so controlled. You know, many drivers are very erratic and quite fast, but Clark was smooth and elegant and fast. And I recognized that that was important. And in a place like Monaco, it's even more important to drive with gentleness and care, to give the car a chance, because it's quite difficult. It's a tough racetrack on transmission because of all the gear shifts. In those days, we were changing by hand. So I learned a lot of that. I studied a lot of the great drivers. And again, Fangio was never an erratic driver. He was always very precise and very calm in a car. So I suppose I was beginning to develop my talent or my skill along those lines, rather than go for the aggressive technique.
In fact, style comes with time. Nobody is born with that knowledge. When I started racing, I used to hold on to the steering wheel as tight as I could to the point where my hands hurt. But I gradually understood that it was pointless and that you could drive better with just your fingertips. Everything comes with experience. Nobody is born with that knowledge.
Simply controlling the car isn't enough. It has to become an extension of the driver's body and mind, responding to his very fingertips. Every reaction has to be noted and analyzed, then fine-tuned, adapted, and finally tamed. Every vibration in the suspension filters through the driver's wrists, his whole body, until his senses and judgment pick out the parts of the track with the best grip, or the best spots to enter or accelerate from a curve. With a temporary circuit like Monaco, the track is only accessible during the short days and hours preceding the Grand Prix.
You have to manage the weekend in relation to the car you have and to the track. You have to understand the weather. There's a microclimate there. It's hot and humid. That might not appear to be much, but if you want to control everything, be the best driver and dominate your car along with your team, you have to know when to change something or not. And there are changes to be made, but it's also important not to change things, to wait for the right moment, because the grip will change depending on the weather, or which cars go out on the track, etc. These are just a few examples, but it all takes a lot of thought, because ultimately, what counts is your position on the starting grid and how you set up the car as well as possible for qualifying.
On the eve of the race, the qualifying session is the first high point in the three-act drama. At stake is the best possible position on the starting grid, and in Monaco, more than anywhere else, it's a perilous but crucial exercise.
The reason that we, in motorsport, we have grid with the fastest person at the front and the slower going further back is because of Monaco. It was invented here in 1933 because until then they did the grid by drawing lots. And it was thought unfair in Monaco because you couldn't overtake. So it's been like that for 70 years.
Qualifying at the front of the grid or obtaining pole position is more than important in Monaco. It can mean a driver has one foot on the podium. And it is very different from the race itself. The Formula One cars here are at their maximum potential and speed, even more so than during the race, where almost 80 laps have to be completed. In just one lap, the drivers have to give their all in pursuit of the best time. Concentration and physical effort are at their height. The drivers often forget to breathe. The greatest pole position experts: Jim Clark, Stirling Moss, Alan Prost, Ayrton Senna, Michael Schumacher. During 80 magical seconds or so, certain drivers attain a state of grace, almost in a trance.
Qualifying is a real sprint there, more than any other circuit. It's a tremendous sprint. And sometimes it takes so much energy, so much concentration